We lost approximately 60 Women Love Women characters from our screens in 2022. You know, I really thought that after addressing the killing off of queer ladies in film and TV, that we were in for better days because I am always hopeful, you know. And while killing lesbians on shows has thankfully dropped dramatically from its 2016 peak, perhaps I should have guessed that the issue would merely morph into a new iteration. With 2022 denoting an all-time high in representation according to GLAAD, especially for queer ladies, 2022 was also a record year in premature and often surprise TV cancellations with sapphic ladies in either the lead or a major role. Thank you to everyone who answered the call on my community post to help me compile this list. I couldn't have done it without you. I'll be doing a deeper dive on this issue in a future video, but for now let's take a look at every cancelled show that I know of that saw its demise before its time last year. Let's start with Netflix shows, and the one on top of everyone's mind, I am talking about Warrior Nun, of course, the most recent shock cancellation in December of 2022. A show about an ancient sect of secret warrior nuns saving the world from demons on Earth. It's a show that spent 3 weeks trending on the global top 10 for Netflix, and who did it all without any proper promotion, because it's a show that got the sapphic audience vibing hard. The quality of the storytelling also got non-sapphic audiences too. So, a shoo-in for renewal, right? Wrong. Worst of all, it ended on a cliffhanger of epic proportions and our lady loves separated. If the cancellation of Warrior Nun is feeling a little déjà vu all over again, it's because it's not the first time this year. First Kill also trended for 3 weeks globally before also being unceremoniously axed for reasons that are not clear, and bodes the question of why on earth a seemingly successful show gets the chop, which I'll talk about in my deep dive video. This show took Romeo and Juliet and applied it to the vampire genre, replete with, obviously, vampires, vampire hunters, warring families, and at the centre, the love of 2 teen girls. Like First Kill, The Imperfects was kicked to the curb after just 1 season and was about 3 young adults who have experimental gene therapy performed on them without consent, giving them each unusual abilities. They band together to find the scientist responsible. It featured lead ace lesbian character, which is rarer than gold dust, and she got a sweet love story. A live action of Nickelodeon's long-running cartoon Winx Club, this show made it to season 2 before it was cut by Netflix in 2022. This revolved around a group of fae teens learning to control their powers at a special school. Just before it was axed, main character Tara had a coming-out story and a wee romance with a girl named Kat. I thought it was beautifully acted by actress Elliot Salt. This show was adapted from the wildly popular Babysitter's Club book series and seemed, at least to the showrunner, to be performing, but Netflix didn't think so and discontinued it after 2 seasons. It revolves around 4 young teens who set up a small business babysitting for neighborhood families as they navigate growing up. It featured main character Claudia coming out, and her older sister Janine revealed she's in a relationship with a woman. Q-Force is an adult cartoon spy spoof that honestly had me cackling. It follows a team of top secret agents who have been shunned for being queer until they go rogue and uncover an arms deal. While they are finally getting legitimate missions, they are being babysat by the agency bully. The team has 2 smart queer ladies on the team, one of whom is voiced by Wanda Sykes, comedian and queer icon. And the fact that I haven't heard a whisper or hear about this show highlights one of the issues about online streaming and Netflix. Okay, we're at 6 Netflix shows with major sapphic characters that were given the pink slip. Moving on to CW shows, this is a ridiculous fun romp of a show which follows a bunch of misfit superheroes saving the world from anachronisms in the timeline and got very suddenly pulled, leaving us on a cliffhanger. It was only one of many CW shows that got the can, which was comparable to Netflix's slicing and slashing. It means we will never get to see the co-captains, Sarah and Ava, get themselves out of time jail, nor start their family, as Sarah was pregnant with, get this, Ava's biological child. Yes, they actually gave us that. Batwoman, part of the same universe as Legends of Tomorrow, was pretty darn gay, and it too went the way of the dinosaurs, just as Ryan and Sophie had gotten together. Season 1 with the sapphic Kate Kane got some middling reviews, but those reviews improved with the introduction of Ryan Wilder as Batwoman, but alas, ratings didn't quite pick up enough to avoid the chop. This superhero origin story follows Naomi, who uncovers she holds some peculiar powers and that her adoptive parents might not be the people she thought they were. I heard some pretty average reviews about this show. I caught a few episodes and I'm inclined to agree that it was a shaky start, enough that I didn't continue watching since I knew it only had 1 season. That combined with no promotion, I didn't even hear about this until after the show had been shown the door, which means I'm not surprised it didn't make it, but it still rankles, you know? The reboot of this very popular late 90s show, which followed three sisters who discovered they were witches, lasted 4 seasons, which I guess in today's world is considered a lot, but nevertheless, it got the unexpected axe just as it had executed a major twist that theoretically should have opened up a whole new level of storytelling. The reboot of Roswell, New Mexico got a slither-more warning that they had been dumped, allowing them to do a rewrite to provide a resolution to the show, although it wasn't the ending the writers had intended. From what I can tell, it wasn't the gayest show, as major character Isabel revealed her potential sapphism in Season 2, but it wasn't until Season 4 that she got a brief sapphic storyline. That said, a sapphic character is still a sapphic character, and we lost her. Another reboot was the 4400, where 4400 missing people suddenly turned up, some after missing for decades, but still the same age and with no memory. Keisha Taylor, a parole officer, is assigned to the response team along with her girlfriend Jessica. The show didn't live up to its predecessor, although it did get 3 nominations for its LGBTQ representation before it got the boot. Legacies also went the way of the dodo after 4 seasons. It's a spin-off show in the Vampire Diaries universe that followed its leads at the Salvador School for the Young and Gifted. Josie Saltzman goes there and is sexually fluid and has an ex-girlfriend called Penelope. As you can see from this list, CW was slashing shows all over the place in preparation for sale, so that brings us to 7 CW shows. Moving to Amazon Prime, we have 3 quick series to cover. The Wilds getting the kick was perhaps not a surprise to those who watched the 2nd season with the introduction of the boys, which was not what many were expecting or wanting, and thus didn't attract as much attention as its successful 1st season. It would have probably found its footing in a 3rd season and promised some good storylines, but Amazon wasn't ready to gamble on it, and we lost our sapphic ladies, Tony and Shelby. Based off an award-winning comic, this promising show never got to truly show what it was capable of when it got scrapped suddenly, leaving us to imagine how the 4 girls displaced in time made it back home. Along with it went any possible development for our queer gal KJ and her crush on Mac. I Know What You Did Last Summer was also announced as done. It received middling reviews, so it wasn't a huge surprise, and quite frankly, it's not really representation I would choose to watch because one of the lesbians played into the crazy trope and the other one died in the 1st episode. So yeah, I won't mourn this one, although it is yet another show with queer ladies that are gone. Hulu also terminated a couple of shows this year with Queens, a show that saw a 90s girl group get back together after decades. One of the band members, Jill, an active member of her church, finds herself on the sapphic side of things with a woman called Tina. I'm not clear on why it didn't make it, but even 90s music icon Brandy wasn't enough to save this one. The other Hulu show was Motherland Fort Salem, which sent waves of dismay through its fandom. This fantasy show focused in on 3 witches who were training for the US Army, and Rael quickly started a somewhat forbidden romance with Scylla, and I think it's fair to say this show ended before its time. While some viewers were less than delighted at Ann Lister hooking up with her ex while Ann Walker waited patiently for her at home, it was frankly not a good enough reason for HBO to withdraw its part of the funding, if you ask me. This show is of rare quality and offered a delightful window into an extraordinary real-life woman who was miles ahead of her time. While it concluded on a happy note, the show was dismissed far too soon. Meanwhile, 2 girls who opened up a portal for all manner of evil to come through is a very different kind of show. Lily has gay mums, and she herself is discovering she's queer too when she and her childhood best friend Candace reconnect in an honestly sweet romance. We won't get to see them together, however, as the show is no more. And here we are at the final sapphic show to be ditched before its time in 2022, The Owl House. While it has been given a final 3 episodes to wrap things up, it's not the full season it should have been. And what I've seen, it's a cute show for the young'uns and the young'uns at heart. So in total, we have 20 shows that were unexpectedly told to take a hike. But they're not the only shows we lost this year. We also have a number that reached their natural end, so let me list those quickly. Madre Solo e Dos offered a 3-act telenovela centering 2 mothers and 2 switched-at birth daughters that brought them together in sapphic love. Christina Applegate's MS diagnosis meant this was going to be the final season for Dead to Me regardless, which meant her character's lady-loving lady partner in crime, Judy, would be making her exit too. Kevin Can himself always had a limited shelf life, so its ending here was no surprise, which meant we bid goodbye to Patty, also partner in crime to lead Allison. With the characters finishing their schooling, it also made sense that Dairy Girls would end, and so we bid adieu to Sapphic Claire. Nancy Drew and her friends also grew up, so the show reached its natural end with their graduation from high school, which is also what happened to Love Victor, which meant that Lake and Lucy also went on their way. The show C, set in the future where the world has lost its sight, also concluded with Haniwa and Ren in a good place. And finally, for all that Killing Eve's ending was atrocious, it did get an actual ending, so I guess there is that. So, in summary, 29 shows and about 60 Woman Love Woman characters gone. There are other shows that had sapphic characters that didn't make it through the bloodbath of 2022 that I didn't include as they didn't have big enough sapphic characters, like Westworld and Dynasty. And there are, of course, many other shows that were prematurely given the push in recent years, but let's leave this video here. Be sure to be subscribed for when I release my deep dive to figure out what on earth is going on with these cancellations, and let me know if I missed any shows that got thrown out with the bathwater last year and should have been included. Until next time, lady lovers.